Hey y'all. First of all, let me just say I'm so sorry that this video is more than a week out. My intentions was to get a video out once a week, but I have been swamped with my website and I haven't been able to edit videos or record videos, which has made it really hard to get content out. But now I got a schedule and your girl is ready to go. And also I've had a lot of different markets. If you want to click the link down below, it'll take you to my online shop. And then also this subject that we're going to talk about today, I also have a podcast episode about this subject. If you also want to click the link down below in the description box. So today what we're going to talk about when it comes to our self-love is the difference between selflessness and self-sacrifice. And there is a huge difference when, especially when we have a lot of obligations to other people like children or partners, and when we also have obligations to ourselves and then work life. So it has a lot to do with balance when you understand the difference between selflessness and self-sacrifice. So in my podcast episode, I kind of talk about how I got to the point where I blurred the lines between selflessness and self-sacrifice, and then also working through that guilt when you decide to say no. So the first thing I want to say before this starts, that no is a complete sentence. You saying no does not need an explanation. You don't need to prove to somebody something in order to say no. You could just say no and be done with it, and that is fine. So growing up for myself, I grew up Christian. I am not a Christian, but I do believe in God. So my religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs are quite complicated. But I still believe in God. I will always believe in God because of my personal experiences with God. But growing up Christian, the system of Christianity, for me, if you watch my last video, then you know that that was something that I really dug deep to look into in my life when I started my self-love journey, because I felt like it made up so much of who I was with a lot of unanswered questions. Now, I'm not against Christianity, but for me, it wasn't for me. There's a car passing. I'm sorry. I'm shooting this on my porch for the lighting, so y'all just gonna have to bear with me. So one of the things that I realized that Christianity did for me is it made me feel like in order to be a good person or a good mother or a good wife, that I had to be selfless, and I always had to do for others before I did for me. Now, I do feel like it's good to be giving, because then, your blessings or, God or the universe or whatever you believe in, I believe in them both separately, returns blessings to you. Okay, so I do believe that it's good to be giving, but I don't believe it's good to be giving to the point that you're sacrificing self and neglecting self. So for me, my thought process around it was I have to put others before me, because that makes me everything I just named in a good Christian. And that may not be the case for you. Sometimes people just don't understand boundaries, which is an important conversation to have with people that you love, and also with yourself. Be like, you want me to talk to myself? Yes, I want you to talk to yourself. And so today we're going to talk about a couple of things that I realize show signs that you have blurred the lines between selflessness and self-sacrifice. And so I have my notes here. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking down about. So the first thing is you feel overwhelmed by others' needs. And so we tend to feel overwhelmed in life when we have a lot going on. But what I mean by this is you get that feeling of like, every time, it's time for me to take a break, or every time it's time for me to do something for myself, I got to do something for somebody else. And you get to that point where you're not really doing it out of the kindness of your heart. You're just doing it because you feel some type of sense or duty. That's a good sign that you've crossed the blurred lines between selflessness and self-sacrifice, okay? Because now it's like you feel like you don't have a choice, and then also it's like the motive behind it, not necessarily motive, but the feelings behind it isn't genuine anyway. So why am I doing this, and then why do I feel like this, right? That's the first biggest thing, because I got to the point where it's just like, for real, I done A, B, C, D for A, B, and C, and D, and now I'm here dog-ass tired. And then not only that, it's like, now I need to do A, B, and C, and D for me, and I can't because I don't have gas for that shit. So that's one of the huge indicators. The second thing is others expect you to put their needs before your own. So a lot of times what happens is, because we do this without boundaries, a lot of times when you cross the line between selflessness and self-sacrifice, you lack boundaries, and boundaries are not being established in relationships. And so people just expect you to be the person that's going to do things. So I also have a podcast around the subject of boundaries and how I felt about boundaries during my self-love journey that I'm still on, which I'll also link down below. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that a person doesn't love you or they want to take advantage of you, but you set that precedence in the relationship, so they feel like, oh, he or she is going to do this for me because they always do. Why else would they think differently? Like humans, that's what we do. We're creatures of habit. And if you set up a practice and you keep doing that practice, then people are going to expect you to do it. That's human nature, right? So that's a huge indicator. When people just start expecting you to do shit, they stop asking you, they start telling you what the hell they need from you. That's a big indicator that, number one, you lack boundaries, and number two, you have set the precedence for people to feel like you're available whenever they fucking want you to be. That shit is extremely dangerous. So number three, you feel guilty about saying no. Because I think when we think about guilt, we need to explore the feelings behind guilt always. Here comes the car. And also, sometimes those feelings are valid. Like, you need to feel guilty because you're not doing the shit you're supposed to do, or you doing something that's morally wrong. Then you have that guilt. If you're a good person, you're going to experience guilt. And bad people experience guilt too, but they ignore it. But in this particular context, you have to explore, why do I feel guilty? Am I actually wrong for not wanting to do this? Or do I feel that this person is going to love me less? Or what are they going to say about me if I say no? Or what are they going to say about me if I don't show up? Or all of that, those type of feelings, those are feelings that are not helpful to your self-love journey. And there are also feelings where you are disregarding your own feelings for the subject. And that is a problem all in itself as well. So if so-and-so says, hey, my kid is having a birthday party and it's on Friday, but on Friday you work from 5:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and this party started at 6, and you like, number one, I'm not gonna have time to do everything I need to do, and number two, I'm gonna be dog ass tired. But then you start being like, what if she's not my friend if I don't go, and what if she don't understand? That's a huge indicator that you crossed over from regular selflessness to self-sacrifice, because there has to be a boundary. I know I'm going to be tired. There is a valid reason why I cannot come. I'm not going to, expose myself to that type of whatever in order to make someone else happy. If someone who loves you does not understand that I have to work, and after work, I'm not trying to be dog ass tired for work tomorrow, that just is what that is. Maybe they shouldn't be in your life, right? But that's a huge indicator as well. The next indicator is, it feels wrong to take time for yourself. This shit is really serious for mothers, because it's a really thin line when it comes to selflessness when you're dealing with a child, because your child needs you, right? And I understand that I have 4 daughters. But when you set aside time for yourself, and say you go to the mall, you have the money, you have everything, but you don't want to buy something for yourself because you feel guilty about it. Or you're going to go get a pedicure and you're like, your kids are like, oh, mommy, I want to go. And you feel bad about saying, no, you can't go. This is mommy time. That is a huge indicator that you've crossed over from selflessness to self-sacrifice, because you are worthy of that time alone, right? To be able to regroup and do whatever it is that you need to do to be a good mother, or whatever this applies to in your life. So that's something that a lot of people neglect to see, especially when it comes to children, because they feel like, those are my kids, I always have to be there. And yeah, you do need to be there for your kids, but if your kids are taken care of, you leave them with a safe person like their father or your mother, or whoever you 100% trust, which is different for everybody, and you've done everything that you're supposed to do for them, and you have extra time and you want to take that time for yourself, or you scheduled this time for yourself, that is perfectly okay. But if you feel guilty about that, then that means that you've crossed over. And the last thing is, the relationships in your life tend to be one-sided. What do I mean by that? If you're the friend that everybody calls when they got a problem, but then you pick up the phone when you got a problem and your life is falling apart and nobody's available, you have one-sided relationships with those friends. If you are the church member or the community member that is the go-to person, but you don't have anybody else to go to, that means that your patterns of self-sacrifice have caused people, to go back to what we said before, to expect you to do things. And they expect you to do things without it being a reciprocal relationship. And that is one of the largest indicators, if you're not a mother and if you're not a wife or a husband. That is one of the huge indicators, because you can see it a lot in your platonic relationships, that a lot of my relationships are one-sided. And then when you're down and out, or you really just need someone to help, you process it, or whatever the case may be, there's no one there. That is a huge indicator. So this week, I reflect on this a lot, because especially when it comes to my husband and my children, I tend to cross that line a lot. Even with all the work I've done on myself, I'm going to be journaling this week about what it looks like to set boundaries with people that you're afraid to lose your relationship with them. So very close people, not necessarily saying that you would lose a relationship with them, but you love them that much. And then what is the point that I'm being selfish, and what is the point that I'm sacrificing myself? Because you have to be balanced in the both sides of that spectrum. You can become so, you can set so many boundaries, or not necessarily set so many boundaries, but you can become so involved with self that you've crossed over into selfishness versus selflessness or self-sacrifice, right? And so I'm going to be journaling about, what do I think healthy relationships look like, where I'm not sacrificing myself in all spectrums of life. So partnership, parenting, best friend, platonic friendships, relationships with coworkers. Like, what does that look like in every spectrum, and how I can keep myself in line in that way. So if you have any questions, I hope this video has been helpful for you. You can hit me up via my DM on Instagram, or you can comment down below. My Instagram is The Highest Healing, so you can follow me there and DM me if you have any questions. And I hope this video was helpful for you, and you guys have a great day.